Hello, everybody. I have a question for you. Why does Chris Nolan use black and white in his films?
Oh,
We've seen it before with Memento,
yeah.
and we're seeing it again with Oppenheimer.
I'm gonna go take a wild guess here and say that the reason he uses black and white Memento is different than what he's gonna be doing in this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much correct. So today we're going to be answering the question where we're actually going to be looking at something that Chris Nolan explains the black and white scenes from Oppenheimer. And towards the end of this video, we're going to be reacting to some exclusive look of Christopher Nolan explaining the IMAX theater experience and all the details that go into that for his upcoming film Oppenheimer. So stick around for that reaction towards the end. But to get into this first, here's an article. It says Chris Nolan explains Oppenheimer's black and white scenes. First off, that's a big deal because Chris Nolan, he's been filming in 70 millimeter IMAX. And instead of turning that footage into black and white in editing, he wants to bake in the black and white look, which is a very hipster thing to do.
Yeah.
Unnecessary, but I like it.
he really goes out of his way to do unnecessary stuff.
But and difficult.
And I think a lot of people, I think it misses for a lot of people when you go in and watch something like Tenet or Interstellar or any of his movies for the first time. You think, wow, that was an incredible movie. It's not till after the fact that you learn that, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was on a set that they were twisting around and spinning. And then you're like, man, he really put a lot of effort into getting this look.
And it's important. He doesn't like to use CG. Not too much anyway. You know, off topic. I don't know why these are on right now.
Oh yeah,
we have just a minute before we react to the video. Yeah, let's keep going. So Chris Nolan explains why he's using black and white in Oppenheimer. Will you read this paragraph for me, Wyatt?
He says, I knew that I had two timelines that were running in the film. One is in color, and that's Oppenheimer's subjective experience. That's the bulk of the film. Then the other is a black and white timeline. It's more of an objective view of his story from a different character's point of view.
And that's pretty interesting as far as, because it makes it sound like, is he telling the story and then retelling it from a different point of view?
Or is
he just going back and forth between the two?
So I think what we're going to see is a lot of Oppenheimer's subjective experience is what that's the terminology he uses. So that's going to be kind of how he felt,
right?
How in probably his accounts of these events of what was going on. So I'm guessing we're going to see, for example, Oppenheimer's going to be like, this is what we need to do. We're going to make this big decision and we'll hit the button and then we'll switch to black and white. And it'll be somebody being like, nobody knew that when we hit that button, all of these things were going to happen. And up until that point, this is kind of how we all saw the situation, which I think is going to be different than how Oppenheimer is going to be feeling. And we're going to get this contrast of who he thinks he is and who other people think he is.
And I was going to say
interesting.
This. I was going to say that because, in the trailer, you got Robert Downey Jr.'s character saying the president needs an answer. And Oppenheimer is like short with him. Cillian Murphy like says a line to him. It's at the end of the trailer. And he's like, because Oppenheimer, so I did a video. I guess I'll put a card in this. Why not?
Sure.
Put a card in it. I did a video that's kind of breaking down a rough synopsis of who Robert Oppenheimer was as a person and kind of a rough idea of his story to help you get familiar with the character or the man himself. However, he was observed by other people as odd, extremely smart, a little pain inflicting. Things like he just doesn't eat for a week because he's too busy thinking about stuff. You know what I mean?
Maybe a little bit melodramatic.
Probably very melodramatic. He's a womanizer, and at the same time, he can't hold on to a woman. He's had multiple girlfriends throughout his life. And so there's a lot. And he was also associated with the Communistic Party in California. And so there's a whole bunch of issues with him as a person.
Yeah.
And so although he was the man that was heading up this team of people that changed history, a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of people in America, while he was working on the Manhattan Project, did not like him. So the black and white is probably going to be a telling of that perspective, everything you said, but also people's perception of him, Oppenheimer, as the man, you know? And the color is going to be more Oppenheimer's internal struggle, you know?
Yeah.
With what's going on in his emotions, in his head. It's going to get up close and personal. So it's a really cool concept.
Well, I think it's interesting if you think about it personally.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about how you think about your life,
right,
what you're doing, everything is kind of in color. But then you think about what other people are doing and how you judge them. You always judge them in black and white. Think about
I like
that. You always nobody looks at nobody thinks about other people the way they think about themselves. Yeah, with the complexities, you always
judge harshly.
Yeah,
they're either good or they're bad. They're black or they're white. That's really. I think
insightful. that's probably what he's doing, and I am insightful.
You are.
Thank you.
you got the moves. So yeah, and just to cover this, so people who don't know, it's going around a lot, so you might be aware of it. 70 millimeter IMAX film is huge. I think one frame is about that big.
That's big.
It's big, considering that 35 millimeter, which is standard, is about that big. You know.
You can get one of them. You can get one of them and then frame it.
Yeah. Just by itself.
Yeah, by itself.
But so we're going to react to Chris Nolan even looking at how long the film is with that amount of film in theaters. But there's never been film created to bake in black and white on 70 millimeter IMAX film. So that's something new that this film's done, because they've done like Tenet, Interstellar, did the 70 millimeter IMAX film.
Well, let's watch it so that we can get a visual idea of what this looks like, so that
let's enjoy this. Know. Yeah, so I don't really know who this creator was who spent the day with Chris Nolan, but somebody did. And Chris Nolan gives good insight throughout. So we'll go ahead and watch this. We'll probably pause it throughout. Let's just enjoy this together. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Christopher Nolan.
And I was lucky enough to spend the day with Mr. Nolan as he showed me some behind the scenes of his new movie Oppenheimer and discussed the importance of film and also watching things in IMAX. He began by showing me the different formats in which movies are shot in film and also projected.
That's conventional 35mm. We shoot on 70mm. The other format we use is 70mm IMAX. It's the highest quality
See, it's turned sideways.
Ever devised. It gives you an incredible sense of immersion in the image.
We then made our way up to the projection booth where Mr. Nolan explained the importance of IMAX exhibition, and he also detailed the process of loading film and the benefits of watching Oppenheimer in this specific IMAX format.
It fills your peripheral vision. It immerses you in the image. The clarity, the crispness, it is the gold standard. It is the closest to reproducing the world the way that your eye sees it.
With the movie reel now loaded up, Mr. Nolan and I made our way downstairs to the IMAX theater, where he gave me a sneak peek of Oppenheimer.
It's an IMAX 70mm film projector in the booth, using the full IMAX screens, and enjoy.
Getting to watch parts of Oppenheimer with the man who made it himself was genuinely a dream come true, and I absolutely cannot wait for you guys to see Oppenheimer in IMAX when it hits theaters in exactly
1 month, 15 days, 17 hours, 3 minutes, and 24 seconds, which makes me a little nervous, but nice to be reminded of how much we've got to do in the time we have.
Awesome.
That's very cool.
I want to point this frame out. Let's see where it's at. Let me mute this. So it's pretty close by. He didn't cover it in this, but I saw a separate video. I guess it's this guy's right here, where it just shows Chris Nolan talking about this. This reel right here is all the film wound up.
This is the film reel.
This is the film reel.
And I'm sure
over the IMAX theater.
I'm sure a lot of people think, when they think film reel, they think like one of those tins, one of those old timey tins of reel. That's not this. This isn't your grandmother's film reel.
No.
You know, this is
IMAX. This is 11 miles of film.
11 miles
is what he says in this video on a separate piece. So this is the edited version, but in this separate thing, Chris Nolan says this is 11 miles. Did you get this full screen, Joshua?
I did.
Throw it up one more time, just to give people perspective. Look at Chris Nolan's hand. So film is paper thin, stacked up together in this huge roll. But this is for one theater, one IMAX theater. And I've heard through article headlines, all right, so take this with a grain of salt. There might only be like 30 IMAX theaters that are showing it this way in the country.
Wow.
That are showing it like this. Which means we might not be able to see it like this. You know what I mean? Because those theaters are probably in LA or New York or something, you know? But man, this is a crazy concept of how, and Chris Nolan's right. It is the truest sense of seeing things the way your eyes would see them in the real world.
And I want to point out, towards the end, he sits down and he says he watched the movie with him.
Right.
Which would be awesome.
It would be cool.
To sit there one-on-one and
I
watch.
really dislike this kid a lot. I'm just incredibly jealous. And do you see his reflection at the beginning?
Yeah. Hey, don't be judging this, man.
Black and white, man.
I saw an article saying that Chris Nolan laid out his favorite seat in the movie theater. He said it's about 2 rows back from the very middle of the theater. So like when you walk in and there's that area that you can walk across to get to the other side, he says it's about 2 rows back from there. In IMAX, it's another 2 rows. So not quite the very back, kind of somewhere in the middle.
Like almost to the back?
And I agree.
It's leaning towards the back.
I agree, but I also understand
center.
that there's how many people have put their feet up on them seats.
Yeah. I know. I prefer the back. I prefer the back. I don't want someone breathing down my neck, literally.
I like a middle view.
A middle view in the back of this theater. That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of look down a little bit when you're at the back. I think when you're a little bit lower, I would agree with Chris. So you got to be a little bit lower so that you can look a little up and a little down and just get that perfect
peripheral. Let us know what you guys think. In your opinion, what is the best spot in a theater?
Is it the very front?
Are you a psychopath who just likes watching movies like this?
Yes.
What's the point of those seats? Nobody sits in those.
The nosebleeds, dog.
It's not the nosebleed. that's the nosebleed prevention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You're so close to that screen.
Yeah, you're not getting nothing up there. Anyways, and also let us know what you think. Is this insightful as far as an interest? Does it interest you about how Chris Nolan's using black and white and color film? Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like the video so you'll see more of our content like this. We really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.